Well, this start of the new season of Andor has certainly been fun this week. In case you aren't chronically online, which in that case, good for you. Keep it that way for your own good. There has been a ton of controversy over aspects of these first 3 episodes, as there always has to be with the Star Wars community. And it's so unfortunate that there always has to be negativity with everything nowadays, because this show is anything but that. I will discuss the things that many fans are complaining about throughout the video as I recap each episode, and give some of my predictions at the end. One of the neatest things about Andor Season 1 is the music, and that doesn't stop in Season 2. The intro theme of Episode 1 is the same melody as Season 1, and the anvil gong can be heard afterwards, which I see as a homage to the last season. The intro theme changes after this episode to, I guess, show the change in time, which for these 3 episodes is a year after Season 1. There is so much world building, just like Andor Season 1, and so many things that have been canon but had never made it on screen before being brought to life in this 3-episode premiere. The first episode starts at a test facility on Shinar, which is the planet that is home to Shinar Fleet Systems that manufactures the TIE fighters and all that. We see the first appearance of the TIE Avenger in canon as an engineer is seen working on it. There's a cool looking Imperial droid moving around that I've never seen the likes of before. Then it pans to Cassian Andor, disguised as an Imperial pilot waiting in the mess hall to meet somebody. As he is waiting, he hears 2 range troopers walking down the hallway, and these are the same types of troopers that are in the Solo movie when they are fighting on that train. Finally, the person who he has been waiting for arrives, as the engineer from earlier named Nia walks into the mess hall. She is a major part of Cassian's plan and is definitely the reason why he infiltrated the facility in the first place. I'm guessing she found a way to contact someone who is involved in the rebellion, which is how Cassian knows to trust her. Initially, I questioned how he managed to not get recognized for being a criminal for this long, but then I realized that the ISB never actually caught him, and that they likely didn't publicize much of the information they had on him. Another Imperial engineer sees them as Nia plays it off smoothly and convinces her that nothing is wrong. We learn that this plan has been long in the works as Cassian tells Nia that she made this decision long ago. And he also says, "You're coming home to yourself." This line means so much, not just for Nia here, but with the galaxy in general. The Empire has been suppressing individuality for so long, and many people have been forced to be somebody they aren't. In order to gain that individuality back, they have to make sacrifices, which may end up being their lives. But for some people, the possibility of death is worth that freedom. In the next sequence, Cassian opens the hangar, shoots the droid, and boards the TIE Avenger. I love the startup sequence of this beautiful TIE fighter. And this is exactly why I am so mad that the Rogue Squadron movie seems like it'll never release, because we need more cool starfighter moments. He is ready to fly this TIE out of here, but there's just one slight issue that he wasn't prepared for. Actually knowing how to fly the damn thing. He loses control of it and starts wreaking havoc in the hangar, as a squad of stormtroopers uselessly fire at the TIE Avenger. The range trooper pulls up with a missile launcher, and Cassian dodges the missile like he's suddenly in the Matrix or something. He then proceeds to absolutely erase that sorry-ass range trooper as he literally melts the hangar door with the TIE's laser cannon. He is then chased down a ravine by a couple of TIE fighters that appear to be the same types of TIE fighters the Inquisitors used, the TIE Advanced version 1. As he is being chased, this TIE Avenger is able to withstand an absolute beating as it keeps hitting the sides of the ravine. Any normal TIE fighter would have exploded by this point, and the reason is starting to become clear why Cassian was tasked to steal this ship. The fucking thing is indestructible! This chase sequence looks so good, and he manages to destroy both of his pursuing TIE fighters by using the rubble of the cliff face he just decimated. He proceeds to get the hell out of Dodge as we switch to the group who fled Ferrix at the end of Season 1, that being Brasso, Bix, Willman, and the droid B. Where is Jezzy though? She's the other person who fled with them, but she's not anywhere to be seen in these first 3 episodes. It appears that Brasso has a significant other now as the camera pans to the mirror revealing Dr. Gorst, who is walking towards Bix's room. This is all just a nightmare though, obviously, because why would the real Dr. Gorst actually be there? That Imperial torture device really did a number on Bix because this is about a year later and she is still feeling the effects of it. We are introduced to Chandrilla for the first time in any show or movie, I believe, but we only get to see the Mothma estate, not like the capital or anything. It is revealed that the occasion for being here on Chandrilla is for Leia's marriage ceremony, as she shows all of her friends her wedding dress. I know this is like a glup shido moment, but we see Mon Mothma run into Erskine Samaj, who becomes one of the rebels who helps deliver Mon Mothma to Phoenix Squadron in the animated show Rebels. We see some familiar faces as Mon sees Vel, Tay, Davo, Luthen, and Clea all are here. We switch back to the planet where the Ferrex crew is living, which is called Mina Rao, and it basically looks like the planet's Lothal and Pabu had a baby, and that's what this planet reminds me of. Bix and Wilman are working out in the field fixing one of the sprinkler machines, and it appears that Wilman has done his fair share in rizzing the local population as Bix notices his girlfriend, Bila, walking up to them. Wilman mentions that they don't have visas, which caught me off guard a little bit. I'm down with the realism and all that's in Andor, but come on. You can't call them something else besides visas? I know that I'm nitpicking, but I think they really could have called it something more Star Wars-y. The three of them notice a Gazanti cruiser flying overhead as the episode cuts back to Cassian flying the TIE Avenger to the meeting point disclosed in his mission. He lands and is immediately ambushed by a group that is hiding in the forest. They think he is actually an Imperial pilot, so they make him their prisoner, as it is revealed that they are a part of Maya Pei's brigade. Maya Pei is one of the rebel leaders that Saw Gerrera mentions in Season 1. Cassian can't tell these random people that he works for Luthen, or else that would jeopardize everything. So that raises their suspicion and they continue to keep him prisoner. These rebels, if you even call them that, are definitely not the brightest individuals, and a whole civil war starts to break out over the most minor dispute. We are introduced to yet another planet, the Malthine Divide, where we finally see the man himself, Krennic, once again in Star Wars. He is such a good character from Rogue One, and I've been so excited to see him in the show ever since I first saw the trailer. I think it's funny that his first line is no notes, while here I am literally taking 5 pages of notes during these episodes.
No notes?
He is hosting a top secret meeting here, and in attendance are Dedra Meero and Leo Partagaz. We find out that this secret meeting is about the Gormans as they play a brief video describing the Gorman culture. On Gorman, one of their most popular resources is Gorman Twill, which is made from spider webs and is used to make various types of clothing. Krennic shuts off the video and gets straight to the point.
You have something I want.
Gorman has something Palpatine wants. A great source of Kalkite energy needed to coat the reactor lenses of the Death Star. He also makes a funny reference as he says that Palpatine wants access to stable, unlimited power. The reason that Krennic has chosen Meero and Partagaz is because he needs the resistance on Gorman to be silenced, knowing that the Gormans will not take the exploitation of their planet kindly. Krennic is fully aware that the planet Gorman will be destroyed in this process of extracting Kalkite, so his task that he gives to them is to develop a strategy to make their genocide galactically acceptable. The funny part is putting the two words genocide and acceptable in the same sentence. These two Imperials stand up and give a proposal on how to weaponize galactic opinion against the Gormans to lower sympathy for their eventual demise. Partagaz is shocked to hear that they are building an Imperial armory at Palmo, the Gorman capital. It seems that Dedra and Partagaz both disagree with this initiative, but are forced to comply with it if they want to keep their jobs. Dedra suggests a solid plan to Krennic, saying,
"Propaganda will only get you so far. You need a radical insurgency you can count on.
Count on for what?
You need Gorman rebels you can depend on to do the wrong thing."
This is actually a pretty good plan because if everyone sees the rebels as the bad guys, the Empire will gain more support and people will pay less attention to their exploitation of the planet. Brasso tells the rest of the Ferrex crew that the Empire is going to be checking everyone for visas soon in a planetary census, one that hasn't occurred in what Brasso's girlfriend said has been 8 years. They are starting to get concerned about Cassian's whereabouts because he was supposed to be done with his mission by now, and Wilman decides to have a listen on comms to see if there have been any major developments. As he is doing this, we can see a picture of Marva next to him, which is a nice touch. We go back to the Mothma estate as they are having a pre-wedding celebration. We see Luthen talking to an Imperial pilot who said he's been training on Steerguard, and that they're all being transferred now. And Luthen hits him with this.
Really? Where's everyone going?
He's clearly trying to get some intel out of him in the most casual way possible, and I love it. Vel and Clea are chatting as Clea reveals the reason her and Luthen are on Chandrila is because their client, Davos Skolden, bought a relic from them to gift to Leia and Stekken for their marriage. Tay trauma dumps everything on Taman, as he mentions his relationship with his wife has been ruined and his involvement has soured his business deals. He's clearly frustrated with how his life has turned for the worse since reuniting with Mon, and their conversation is cut short as somebody breaks the news to her that Leia and Stekken got in a fight. She finds Leia crying over this, and Mon starts to feel even more guilty of being the one who put her in this whole situation. But yeah, that was the first episode. There was so much to unpack here, and we still got 2 more to discuss. So let's get into episode 2. The episode starts with the Brigaders trying to find their leader who died, Rika's body. And all they find is her severed foot and goggles, meaning a wild animal probably got a hold of the corpse. The Civil War is so stupid. It reminds me of when I was in 2nd grade at recess and we would all team up and have a big pretend battle. The difference is that these are adults, not 2nd graders at recess. I think it's funny how Cassian has to coach them on basic survival skills because none of them have the slightest clue of what they're doing. The Brigaders on the other side try to use manpower to aim the TIE Avenger at the opposing group, but it doesn't end up working for them because the opposition just starts firing at them, halting their progress. The Brigaders finally agree to settle this little beef war with a challenge, which I thought was going to be a fist fight to the death or something, but it was the furthest thing from that. They decided to settle this dispute that people died in with the Star Wars version of rock, paper, scissors. I don't know if it's the starvation, dehydration, or being out in the wilderness for a prolonged period of time, making them lose their minds, or just raw stupidity that makes them think that rock, paper, scissors can end their entire dispute. Again, like I said earlier, these are adults, acting like how I was at recess with my friends when we were all 8 years old. While this is happening, Cassian catches the dude who was supposed to be watching him off guard and makes a run for it to the TIE Avenger. He kills somebody in the process and flies the heck out of there. As he is flying away, the camera pans to the same temples we see on Yavin 4 as it is revealed that the mysterious planet he has been on is in fact Yavin 4. I think this storyline with these Maya Pei Brigaders was pretty boring and stupid. Everything shown in Andor Season 1 had meaning behind it, and while I know for certain the fact this was on Yavin 4 is meaningful, I feel like the storyline involving this group of brain-dead individuals could have been replaced with something with more character development for Cassian. Instead, we got 2 episodes with no character development for him and not much screen time after he leaves Sienar. This season isn't over yet though, and maybe somehow these sorry excuses for Rebels will play some sort of significance in the greater Yavin 4 base plotline later in the season. Miro and Partagaz are walking to the ISB office when she confesses to him that she doesn't want the Gorman project. She would rather focus on fighting Luthen Rael or Axis instead of exploiting planets in the name of constructing the Death Star. If I had to take a wild guess, I think Dedra disapproves of the Death Star and, similar to Thrawn, thinks it's a waste of resources and focus. And they're right. I mean, the Empire put so much into constructing the Death Star all for it to be blown up by a single X-Wing. If only they had invested their resources into other projects like the development of the TIE Defender. If they had done this, the Rebellion would have never stood a chance. Partagaz tells her to stop worrying about Axis and to focus on Gorman because he thinks it is a gift she should take. And by a gift, he means something that'll increase her reputation as an ISB agent so that she can be taken more seriously. Back on Chandrila, we see Luthen and Kleya prepping the wedding gift and having it moved somewhere. And then Kleya breaks the news to him of the Imperial census on Mina Rao. She informs him that she will be going back to the gallery on Coruscant to try to contact the Ferrex crew. We get a better idea of how expensive the wedding gift actually is when Perrin tells Mon that it's probably worth more than their entire estate. He proceeds to accuse her of having feelings for Tay Kolma, which is a reasonable assumption to make after all the times that he's seen them hanging out together. After all, Tay Kolma is Mon Mothma's childhood friend. He reveals to her that Tay had too many drinks the night before, so he definitely spilled some info on him that maybe has made him even more suspicious of Mon. Later, they do a ceremonial walk up a mountain, as Vel tells Mon that she hasn't seen Cinta in a while because Luthen has had her busy. And just the recap from Season 1 real quick, Cinta and Vel are a couple, and so basically Vel really misses Cinta because they haven't seen each other in a while. Before the ceremonial dinner, Luthen sees Mon talking with Tay and starts to lock in. Briefly recalling back to Season 1, Mon had proposed the idea of bringing in someone to help manage her financial errors to Luthen, and he had disapproved of it. That entire time, she had never told him the complete story of Tay Kolma or Davos Golden's involvement. Tay expresses his frustration about the toll his involvement has taken on his life, and that since her problem of needing to cover up those missing 400,000 credits has been solved, he believes he should be compensated for his hardships. Luthen sees this entire conversation play through and realizes something is wrong, so he takes her aside and makes her spill the whole situation. Mon tells Luthen that Tay needs a number, but she hasn't discussed it with him yet. What this means is that Tay requires hush money or else he will tell everyone of her involvement in the rebellion. Luthen finds this very troubling and tells her that they can't let this be. He's thinking the same thing Perrin said earlier.
He was always weak.
Luthen sees Tay as a loose end who can jeopardize their entire operation. What is stopping him from taking the hush money, then going on to tell everyone the truth anyway? Luthen, having killed the number of people he has, will not hesitate to have Tay killed in order to keep his and Mon's involvement a secret. On Mina Rao, Kellen, who is Bila's father, is also a really good friend of the Ferrex crew, and has been the one informing Brasso about everything the Empire has been up to, like the census. Later, while Women is getting some quality time with Bay, the imps arrive on their transports to their residence and buy some cold drinks from Kellen. The lieutenant catches Bix off guard at the silos and tries to rizz her up, but gets rejected immediately as Bix says she has a husband who is off planet and will be back soon. So she is basically using Cassian as her cover-up identity husband. We finally see Cyril Karn, and he has finally risen to the top position at his job. He gives a super motivational speech to his new employee about how persistence and dedication can lead you to the top, and that there's a future for everyone here. That's how you know that it's been a long time since the last season, because he would have never cooked up a speech like this. Later, we see that he and Dedra now live together in a skyrise apartment on Coruscant. I had a feeling this was eventually going to happen, as I was shipping them the entire last season. I'll be honest though, I was caught so off guard going from where we left off in season 1 to now. Like, that's a huge jump in the relationship stage, going from first base, maybe not even first base, to literally a full home run. Episode 2 was definitely the weakest of the 3 episodes, but one of them had to be worse than the others, so whatever. I think it's better that we have a strong start and a strong end, so the middle episode, that's fine if it's not the best. Episode 3 starts right where we left off with Cassian, as he's drifting in space, trying to contact Clea. He is successful with this and informs her that the relay pilot, Porco, who he was supposed to meet up with on Yavin 4, wasn't there to meet him. Probably because those brigaders killed him or something, I don't know. He tells her, understandably, that he wants to go home, and she tells him there's a frequency blockade and she needs to keep contact with him. But being concerned by this, he immediately cuts off comms and heads for Mina Rao. On Mina Rao, the village is having a feast, as Kellen pulls up to give the spill of the Imperial happenings to Brasso. Kellen gives him a fake work visa in case an Imperial ID checks him. So their plan is that Brasso and the Ferrex crew is supposed to go to Block 800, where this work visa is located for, and while they're gone, Kellen said he'll cover for them for when the Imperials go and check, and then after the Imperials leave, he'll let Brasso know and they'll come back. It is wedding day in Chandrila as Mon tries to convince Leia to rethink the marriage, but as she has been doing all this in spite of her mother, remember, this is Leia's rebellion, so she decides to go through with the marriage against Mon's wishes. She even throws an insult in there to rub salt in the wound.
I wish you were drunk.
The marriage ceremony starts, and I can't help but reflect on how extensively these 3 episodes flesh out Chandrilan culture. It is clear that the Chandrilans value their ancient traditions and hold a large amount of pride for their planet, as we have seen throughout seasons 1 and 2. At the Cyril Dedra household, they prepare for dinner with, guess who? Cyril's mother! Yay! She starts acting embarrassingly to make Cyril uncomfortable and acts like a hard ass to Dedra. She asks Dedra about her parents, and she responds saying she didn't grow up with parents, since they were criminals who were arrested. She was raised in an Imperial kinderblock, which explains her dedication to the Empire. Cyril is fed up with his mother and goes to the bedroom to cry or something, which I thought was funny. Dedra proceeds to confront his mother about this and arranges a plan to ensure Cyril still visits her so they can maintain their familiar relationship. But in turn, she has to get her act together. She even uses Uncle Harlow's criminal background as leverage to ensure she gets her act together. If you forgot who Uncle Harlow is, which is understandable because he literally is mentioned like 1 time in the last season, he's the guy she called in a family favor for to get Cyril that office job. Damn. I really don't think Cyril could have possibly found a better match than Dedra Meero. As this is happening, the Ferrex crew is getting ready to leave for the 800 block to avoid being caught by the Imperials for being illegal. At the wedding ceremony, Davos Skolden presents Leda and Stekken's wedding gift, a Shandy Merle, which he says was stolen 25,000 years ago by the Rakatan invaders. I'm starting to think that Luthen has a liking for Rakatan era artifacts because back in season 1, he gives Andor that Kyber necklace from the Rakatan era, and now we have this relic. I think he likes it because it's from a time where people rose against the tyranny of the Rakatans, and now he is trying to start an uprising against a new tyrannical government. Davo gives Luthen a big shout out to the crowd, which adds on to the comparison I made in my last video with Luthen being the rebel Palpatine. He hides in plain sight and everyone knows him for being an artifact collector, but nobody would ever guess that he's assembling a rebellion. The same thing happens with Palpatine. Everyone saw him as a senator and eventually Chancellor of the Republic, but nobody could have ever guessed that he was a Sith Lord. Luthen talks to Erskine Samaj, the guy I mentioned at the start of this video, who says his mother is Gorman and his father was Chandrilan, which is why he has ties to Chandrila, even though he was born in Naboo. When his mother passed away, Mon stepped in and took him in. This explains his loyalty to Mon Mothma and why he's involved in the eventual rebel mission to get Mon Mothma into hiding from the Empire. Tay is clearly drunk as he bumps into Erskine on his way to chat with Mon, and Luthen, the way he looks at him, dude, Tay is dead. He is so dead, bro. He tells her how Davo could be of great use to him, which I'm assuming is that he could probably turn him in for covering up Mon's rebel fundraising. Brasso leaves B with his girlfriend, Talia, as a TIE Reaper flies overhead. As Bix and Brasso are about to leave, they notice Wilman isn't there. In fact, he is busy spending some last bit of quality time with his girlfriend. She feels a blaster as she is hugging him and realizes that he is more than just an illegal immigrant. They notice the Imperials coming back to their residence as Wilman starts to make a run for it back to his house, since there was no way to get to his speeder without getting spotted. Brasso makes his way over to Kellen's residence in a hurry to find Wilman, and then we switch perspectives back to Mon and Luthen, who are discussing Tay Kolma acting up. Luthen doesn't like him talking to Skolden, and he hits her with this line.
People fail. That's our curse.
Luthen tells her that they would be vulnerable forever as long as, for what I assume he means, Tay is still alive. The next couple of lines are pretty telling.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
How nice for you.
Alright, let's dissect what this means for y'all watching. Do you remember Luthen's amazing monologue from Season 1 about how he had sacrificed everything?
So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
Well, he truly has sacrificed everything to the rebel cause, and Mon could never begin to comprehend the terrible things he has gone through in order to preserve the cause. To Luthen, killing Tay Kolma to permanently silence him instead of keeping him alive, jeopardizing the cause, is a no-brainer to him, and Mon Mothma can't seem to understand his line of thought. Luthen and Mon are two sides of the coin. Mon will be the figurehead of the Rebel Alliance and operate through a democratic means. Luthen, on the other hand, will probably die before he gets to see the Empire overthrown. And even if he does survive, he'll be punished for the lives he had sacrificed for the cause, instead of being praised for a hero like Mon Mothma will. That is why he makes this remark. That is why he thinks that it's so nice for Mon Mothma to be so blissfully unaware of the brutal realities of having to organize this huge Rebel Alliance. Honestly, the parts of these 3 episodes covering Mon and Luthen have been my favorite to watch during this 3-episode premiere. Even though this is a show about Andor, I am low-key more invested in Mon Mothma and Luthen Rael now. After their conversation, the real party starts, as a remix of the Niamo soundtrack that I loved from Season 1 gets the function going crazy. Mon downs a couple of drinks as she is trying to cope with the fact that her childhood friend, Tay Kolma, is about to get offed by Luthen in some way. Later, we see Tay Kolma leaving the party as we see Cinta, disguised as his cab driver, preparing to take him on what will probably be his last ride ever. Vel and Cinta both see each other, and Vel probably puts 2 and 2 together and is either booking it to tell Mon, or she is just frustrated. On Mina Rao, things are heating up, as the Imperial Lieutenant is making his way to the Ferrix crew's house. And while that is unfolding, Cassian jumps to the planet. As he is approaching, a Star Destroyer can be seen hovering above the planet. Bix receives a transmission from Cassian, but is interrupted by the Lieutenant approaching. As this is happening, Brasso is captured by a stormtrooper. He puts on an act and blames Kellen for turning him in to make it appear that he is loyal to the Empire and get their suspicion off of him and his family. I'm guessing he does this as a sign of gratitude for helping them out, and since he plans on leaving the area, wanted to ensure Kellen's family is safe. The Lieutenant walks in and gets to the point that he knows that Bix is an illegal. He sees her fear as an opportunity and tries to grape her. Bix fights back and manages to hit him hard enough in the head to kill him, which is a huge W. I think they named him Krull for a reason, because one of the most hated Star Wars villains of all time is Pong Krell, and Krull sounds very familiar to that. His death should have been more painful, to be honest, but a win is a win. At least he's dead. It's a shame that he and Pong Krell, though, for being as evil as they are, had really relatively swift deaths. The Sergeant sees Krull die and tries to arrest Bix, but is fired upon by Wilman, and while he was distracted, Bix kills him. Cassian flies overhead and blows up the transport with all the imps on it, trying to make it to the Ferrix crew's house for backup. Brasso tries to flee on his speeder, but is shot by one of the stormtroopers in the process. Cassian kills the stormtroopers and finds Brasso's dead body at the scene. This hurts, because Brasso is a character who I thought we were going to see a lot more of this season, but right as it seemed like they were going to escape, he dies. Rest in peace to a real one. Bix can't catch a break, man. Firstly, in Season 1, her boyfriend gets shot and killed, then she gets tortured by the ISB, then she has to fight off somebody who tried to SA her, and now her friend Brasso is dead. Rough times, dude. I find it amusing that during all this brutality though, the episode kept switching to Mon Mothma's point of view, and she is absolutely hammered and dancing away the entire time. Cassian has them board the TIE, and they fly off to where I assume was a place to rendezvous with Luthen or someone who works for him. When we see them all inside the cockpit as they are flying away, it resembles the scenes in Season 1 of when Marva was taking Cassian from Kenari and when Luthen was taking Cassian from Ferrix. Such a cool way to tie everything together. Alright, that's all we get for the first 3 episodes, but man was that a good start to Season 2. It's been pretty hard to process the sheer number of things that have happened in these 3 episodes. The pacing is so much faster than the first season, and it seems like the plot is accelerating 10 times faster. This is definitely a better first 3 episodes than the first season, so I see that as an improvement. If I had anything to critique, it would be how they didn't have a more Star Wars-y word for visas, and how they use actual cuss words instead of using Star Wars originated cuss words like dank ferric or just make new ones. I know that's nitpicking, but I think it's such a simple fix. I've been seeing a lot of controversy around the grape scene, and honestly, I don't have a problem with it. If any show is bold enough to introduce this harsh reality to Star Wars, it was gonna be Andor. And for anyone who thinks this is a brand new concept in Star Wars, I would like to introduce you to Return of the Jedi, when Leia was literally chained up by Jabba in a bikini. And to add, Bix fought the guy off, and that's the most that even happened was her fighting him off. The whole point of the scene was to show yet another evil side of the Empire. And for the argument where I saw a certain content creator say that Vader wouldn't condone that, like, bro, what is Vader gonna do? This is a random lieutenant on a random planet in a galaxy. People abuse their power. Shit happens. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2. I'm pretty sure each trio of episodes that release takes place a year after the other, so the next release will be another time jump, I believe. And I'm excited to see what happens, and especially the lead up to Mon Mothma fleeing to join the rebellion. So yeah, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and leave a like if you haven't already. This is Narfboy, saying bye. Bye!